being 9 o'clock, we'll get started with the subcommittee on housing. Let's start off with House Bill 1010, please. All right, House Bill 1010, relative to multifamily residential development on commercially zoned land. And I do have an amendment to discuss for this. Just a moment while I pull it up. I believe it's Amendment 1682.
Okay.
Not 1649.
1649 was a prior version. 1682S.
That,
Got it.
So what the amendment does is that it takes out the ability of the planning board to order a water study. We heard a lot of testimony at the hearing. Oh, you know what? It's still in there, so I have to rework the amendment. You see that? It's still there on line 23.
Page.
Of the amendment.
yeah.
Yeah, so I can have this ready for our executive session later today.
In commerce.
Yes.
And planning boards already have that in law to do that in the event that it's needed, right?
So the intention of the amendment is to strike the ability for the water study.
Okay.
All right, but otherwise, the bill is largely untouched. Traffic study can still be required. And they can still, the town can still require a source of water.
Okay. And your amendment should say that.
It does. It will.
It will.
It will in time for our committee hearing.
Okay. All right.
And that's not already in law. The ability.
The ability for water study, no, it's not currently in law.
It's not.
No.
Okay.
So if we're amending 1010, I take it that means you're motioning on to pass?
I would move that we recommend all to pass on 1010 with amendment of 1682. Senator Reardon, do you have any thoughts?
I
Believing in my intention?
believing in your
Not already.
intention. Yep.
Sure did.
Great way to make law. I agree, take the water study out.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if sewer and water connections weren't already in planning board regulations. But if they're not, then
They are, but not the water study.
what, so just,
The current law allows towns to require a water connection,
okay.
a water supply. It can be a well, it can be public.
Yep.
You can
Yep.
require a water supply, but you can't require
And that has been an
currently
issue, right?
a
When
water study.
it's been historically commercial use, and once you put an intense residential use in their waters. Okay, I get it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so is this coming back to us, or are you going to?
I will
Commerce.
I will rework this before commerce today.
Okay,
And we can handle it there. All right.
So
no pressure.
No, we'll get you out.
can I have a second on the also passes amendment?
I'll second.
Recommendation. Well, you made the initial motion, so I need Senator,
Well,
Reardon,
yes.
or I can make it.
Second.
Okay.
What?
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? Okay. I recommend all to pass as amended on 1010. Let's move to 1103.
Okey-dokey.
So I can start off on 1103. I'm of two minds on the bill.
Mhm.
I've always supported anything we can do just to encourage more residential building. We all know that it's important that we have more housing in the state. We all know that the consequences of not having more housing means higher and higher housing prices. My one objection is that this is designed to encourage more quote unquote workforce housing. And I'm definitely a free market person. I've always believed that the market will provide, unfettered, will provide what the market desires. And we are encouraging, we're giving 11 years of tax credits for workforce housing versus 7 years for everything else. So that's my only objection. However, I'm not sure my objection rises to the level that I would oppose the bill.
Okay.
It's a bitter pill that I'll swallow to get the cure I want. So I'm happy to hear anybody else on the bill.
It's an existing program
Right.
that is just being extended to a significant priority need that we have right now. I understand that it may take longer with a residential application, particularly workforce, than it would a commercial application, which has the ability possibly to generate more income, therefore a shorter period, shorter term for that. And I will note that I have a Senator Innes amendment in my file here.
Yeah.
So I would be interested to hear the end here of what you propose.
Well, look at it real quick. If you look at the last line, we say 7 years of no workforce housing. And then up to 15 years of workforce housing is created. That's even worse.
That's the whole down one.
It is the whole down. And I tend to agree with you, Senator Murphy. I think, that might be the way to go. But at the same time, I want to incent workforce housing.
I think we incent it by adding it to the program
Yeah.
initially.
So I'm open to any motion for recommendation on this. I'm not overwhelmingly opposed to the bill. I can support it if it's the will of the subcommittee.
I make a motion about to pass. I'm going to hold the amendment up.
I'm going to hold the amendment, so I'm going to stop trying to compare.
All right, and I'll second the other pass recommendation. All in favor of the to pass recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Okay,
Okay, pass. No.
1540.
1540.
Senator Fenton.
So we heard lengthy testimony on 1540 from a variety of lake associations in favor of the bill. The sponsor suggested an amendment to return it to what it was before the House amended it.
Mm-hmm. And we have that.
I have to tell you myself, I see why the House made the amendment. We have a very thorough ADU law, and I'm worried that the amendment that's proposed will water that down and make it less likely to build ADUs.
Mhm.
And I don't want to do anything to discourage ADU construction in lakefront communities. So I can support the bill as written as it comes to us, but I would be resistant to any amendment. If anybody else wants to speak on this, I'm certainly happy to hear it.
I agree with your thoughts on the amendment. I think adding that conditional use permit in there was just a reason for every town to say no, that
Right.
didn't actually want ADUs, so
Yeah.
that's an easy part. Nothing else shall be interpreted. And otherwise, the bill's pretty benign.
Any further discussion? I would move that we recommend all to pass 1540.
Second.
And move in second, and any, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 1540 recommended all to pass. That takes us to 1588.
Okay.
So 1588, this amendment looks like it actually cleans up the 1088 amendment. So, because the language is in both bills. Section lines 9 through 12 of the bill would stop towns from requiring that parking spaces that they require are garaged.
Yep.
And then lines 13 through 26. Clean up the water language. See that for water infrastructure, require the applicant receive permission from the owner of a public water system connected to the system, or in the absence of a public water system, develop a water supply. So that was the language that was meant to be in the other amendment.
Yep.
And I'll just need to copy and paste. Is it clear what we're doing with this one?
You're going to use this amendment on
I'm going to take this language from this amendment and put it to the other.
Okay, I gotcha.
so we don't need this amendment. We do for the garage space.
We'll need it for the garage space.
So delete lines 13 through 26 on this, and keep this as an amendment to this bill.
The lines 13 through 26 will come out. And
Yeah.
looking at the amendment for 1010 that we've already discussed,
Well, I have an amendment here for 1588 as well from you.
yes, the 1588 amendment, looks like OLS just sort of copied the wrong language.
Okay, okay. So,
Okay, here it is.
10,
If you go back to the amendment for 1010,
yep.
you see page 2, line 14.
Mm-hmm.
This is new language. A municipality shall not impose additional requirements for multifamily housing proposed to be located within commercial districts in existence as of July 1, 2026, or expanded or created after that date, beyond those specifically allowed under this section, except for frontage setbacks and height requirements, provided that such requirements are not different from what is allowed for commercial development.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is to prevent towns from finding ways around what we did last year with allowing residential use in commercial zones. Because we've had several instances, unfortunately, of towns engineering
Mhm.
Ways to
Restricted.
obviate residential use in commercial zones.
Yes.
One town in particular sent out a letter and changed their zoning regulations essentially to say, we're not going to allow it anyway. And unless we get sued, and if we get sued, then we'll allow it, but we're going to put 8 different restrictions on it. And we can't, in my opinion, we just can't allow this.
Me too.
I was going to leave the name of the town out of it, but you just listed the town. So you see how that,
I know how they work.
okay. And then lines 23 to 26 of this amendment, which will find its way into the 1588 amendment,
Mm-hmm.
specifies that there's an opportunity to collect attorney's fees.
Yeah. Okay.
So hopefully that will discourage
It's its turn.
any other communities from undertaking this approach.
Okay.
I have my work cut out for me the next hour to move those amendments around, but all the language is there,
Okay.
just in different amendments.
All right. So we'll get this cleaned up before
I
commerce.
certainly will, Mr.
All right.
Chairman.
Okay, very good. We'll do it then.
Is there any, on the underlying 1588, is there any discussion, concerns, comments?
In 1588, we'll still have an amendment that is just this section here.
It will have that, plus I'm going to move the language off of 1010
Oh,
amendment
1010's coming here.
to that.
I thought this was going to 1010. Now I know.
So was there any other discussion on 1010? Oh, sorry, 1588.
Do you want a motion?
I will take a motion
To pass.
With amendment?
with the amendment that's
Yes.
proposed.
Of course.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Or recommend out to pass with amendment. So, I want to bring up HB 1681, which we had motioned for interim study
All
at our
right.
last meeting. I did have a meeting with the BIA, an exchange of emails, and they proposed an amendment that may actually do the trick. Our concern last time we talked about this bill was that it needed a fair amount of work,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been persuaded that it may need less work than I had expected. And it's very helpful when other people do the work for us. So, is there any appetite to take it up and reconsider our prior action, or do we want to stay with interim?
Happy to talk about it, yes.
So the proposal was on the bill to delete on page 2, lines 7 to 14, dealing with property taxes. Reading this section would allow towns to encroach taxation of those structures in any way they wish.
Mm-hmm. So it gives the communities freedom.
Yes, instead of giving them direction, it gives them freedom. So,
Okay.
and then on page 3, deleting the reference to state building code site.
Yes.
And then,
So that partial sentence would end with state building code and then semicolon.
yeah, and then we're going to renumber C to B.
Yep.
And then down in line 28,
Mm-hmm.
it would say, the New Hampshire State Building Code Review Board shall amend the state building code to reflect the applicable
Yep.
provisions of
Okay.
sections 1 through 5 of the act. I can have the amendment ready. That's a very easy amendment. If it's the will of the subcommittee to recommend this as opposed to interim study.
Or we can do it as a committee amendment if you don't have it in time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
What do you think, Senator Riddle?
I think I still want to make sure. It's not too, shall not, okay, so that excludes manufactured housing. I want to read it once more to make sure that there's a manufactured housing in there someplace. And I will read that, and if I find anything else, I haven't found anything yet. I will address it when we,
Well, none of the recommendations that we make are binding upon the committee.
Right.
It's just the place to read legislation and propose amendments.
So commerce, we can.
We can hammer it out, and if it's the will of the, I know that several of the members had questions about this bill.
I don't see manufactured housing in here, so I think we're all set. I think that was just part of the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm good.
Are you comfortable with the? All right, I'll recommend, I'll pass with amendments 1681, consideration of prior action.
Oh, second.
All in favor of recommending law to pass as amended?
Second.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Okay, is there any further business that anyone want to discuss, any legislation? I believe we've been through the list.
I believe we have.
Okay. All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Done.
Thank you.
We have a leftover here to 11:03.
I think that's the one that yeah, it's the one he wasn't bringing. Now I gotta go hatch out.
Yeah. Brendan doesn't look nervous at all.
What's that?
Brendan doesn't look nervous at all.
Yeah, Brendan, let's go. We got work to do. I thought. No, I like this one. Yeah. I like that.
I had a brief question about the 16.
Yes.
Have the 29 statutes regarding the phrase 11 addressed in 75, 78, and 72.
I believe in deleting the section that we talked about during the subcommittee addresses that.
But they won't be treated as manufactured homes because there's a censorship that's addressed in about 29 statutes. And we had language that we want to work on the committee, but so now that we know it, they won't be treated as fixed real estate. They will be regulated like other fixed modular or manufactured structures. That's been what we've been saying since that.
So this is the issue that I have with that. If they're still on
And I will entertain a motion to go into executive session, please. All right, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? We are in executive session. So let's run through these in order, and with any luck, we'll be able to move them all along to the Senate floor. And we have to take action on all of the bills with a fiscal note today. That's a must. So we'll start with 297 FN, a bill that came over to us from the House, relative to providing self-funded employer health benefit plans access to their claims data. Do we have any discussion or emotion? Senator Murphy, your mic is on.
I think all of our mics are
Yeah, all
on,
of our
Mr. Chairman,
mics
but
are on.
I would move off the pass.
You'll move on to pass. Do we have a second? No. I will second. Discussion on House Bill 297. Is there any?
I'll kick us off.
Okay.
We'll have some fun. Hearing through this bill, a lot of questions dealing with some of the language, dealing with what qualifies as similar, general surgeon or an orthopedic surgeon. There's issues with timing delays. If insurers must match a specialty match physician, peer-to-peer reviews take longer. We got delay in treatment approvals. I don't think this bill is ready for prime time. I'd entertain a motion of interim study, but I can't support it not to pass.
All right. I would point out this one came to us at the request of the insurance department.
Senator, since it came from the department, would it make sense to maybe pass the bill but not the amendment that was attached?
Right. Yeah.
Which is what I think Senator Fenton was speaking about.
Oh, maybe that was.
You might
I
have been.
think so.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily supportive of the amendment.
You know what? I retract that.
But I
I don't
am.
like them amendments.
Okay. I just thought, sorry to intrude, but I thought like.
Intrude ever if I'm wrong.
Okay.
It's fine. We got a lot of work today, so it's easy to
Okay.
get them a little bit out of order. So, okay. All right, so the amendment, we're not going to bring forward. It's just here, but we're going to let that sit. But we do have an ought to pass motion on the bill. Again, it was requested by the insurance department. Okay. All right. All in favor of the ought to pass motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Move consent.
Second?
All right. All in favor of consent, please say
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right.
Somebody take me out.
I'll take this one out. That's all right. Unless you want to. so-
Oh, no.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to get
Ready, Aaron? Okay, House Bill 396, relative to the processing of beef cows, et cetera, with an amendment from me. Basically, what this bill does is it sets up, it allows for intrastate sale of animals processed within the state to be processed at something other than a USDA facility. Presently, we allow that with bison, deer, and elk. And we do not allow it with cattle, swine, sheep, and goats. So this bill would open it up to all of those animals as well. The amendment makes a change. The original bill said that a menu at a restaurant would need to indicate that the meat was slaughtered at the farm in a non-USDA facility. We changed that word to initially processed, which is a little more palatable on a menu. And then we further, in the amendment, further direct the Ag Department to develop a training program for farmers who decide to avail themselves of this new approach. And I point out there is support down in DC for this, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So do we have a motion on this one?
Move off to pass.
All right, we have an ought to pass and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the ought?
You need to introduce.
We need the amendment.
Oh, the amendment, yes. The amendment comes next. Sorry, thank you. I introduced Amendment 261660. Yes, I'm coming down with something good, so good gentle on me today.
Oh, let me move away.
It's really slowing me down. But the sense of humor is still there, but the quick wit, maybe not. So I would like to move that amendment with an ought to pass motion. We have a second. All in favor of Amendment 1660S, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now to the underlying bill, 396. We have an ought to pass motion with a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move consent.
All right, I'll second consent. All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good. I was trying to decide if I wanted to speak on the floor about this one.
Would you like to take it out?
I will take this one out for sure. 1010, I'd like to hold. We're waiting on an amendment from OLS. So we'll save that till the end of today. But we will do it today under any circumstance. All right, House Bill 1043, relative to employer discretion in offering minimum payment options to employees. Do we have a motion on House Bill 1043? Maybe from one of the co-sponsors?
I'll move all to pass.
All right, and I will second that, and I'll open it up for any discussion. Anything? All right. All in favor of the ought to pass motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right. So the ought to pass motion moves forward, but not consent. Would one of the co-sponsors like to take it out? Senator
take it.
Murphy. All right. Are we good? Senator Murphy. House Bill 1079, allowing accessory dwelling units to be built within or attached to certain non-conforming structures with an amendment from Senator Reardon. Do we have a motion on the bill 1079?
Move all to pass.
We have a motion about to pass from Senator Murphy. I will second. Let's move to the amendment. Senator Reardon?
I'd like to move Amendment 2026-1585S.
Okay.
It removes Section 3 from the bill. It was an error in the House when it was drafted. That actually repeals the ADU statute, and they do not intend to do that.
Okay. All right. So that makes a correction to the underlying bill. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment 1585S, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Very good. And the bill itself, 1079. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay. Would you be all right if it were on consent,
Yes.
Senator? All right, I'll move consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good. It's on consent. Senator Murphy, you want to take that one too? Okay. Thank you. Or Senator Reardon. Okay, House Bill 1103, allowing municipalities to utilize community revitalization tax relief credits on a wider range of properties and structures. And we have the bill plus an amendment, Amendment 1662S. And the amendment essentially, it simply brings the bill into alignment with federal standards, federal rules. Let me get to 1103 myself and find the actual item. Is this my amendment? Yes. This is Senator Murphy's amendment, 1662. Aaron, we've got that in the front of this, right?
1662. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a copy right here. If you drop down to lines 15, 16, 17, that's where most of the change occurs with the amendment. And this refers to workforce housing, and the federal law allows 15 years, and this bill originally had 11. So we're bringing it in line with federal statute, 7 years if no workforce housing is built, or up to 15 years if workforce housing is created. Okay, so again, the amendment just brings us in line with federal rules. Any discussion on the amendment? All right, all in favor of amendment 1662, please.
Okay, that's the bill.
Oh. Oh, we don't have an ought to pass on the bill.
Pass on the
Thank you.
bill.
All right, we have a motion and an ought to pass. Now to the amendment. I'll move ought to pass on amendment 1662. We have a second from Senator Reardon. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the underlying bill, 1103. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move consent.
We have a motion for consent
Second.
and a second from Senator Rishardi. All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Would someone like to take this one out?
Sure.
I will.
Just give it to Senator Rishardi. All right. All right. 1112, relative to snow removal responsibilities and lease agreements.
I move out the pass.
We have a motion
I'll second
to
that.
pass with a second. Is there any discussion? Wow. Yes, Senator Reardon.
I will oppose that motion. I think this is something that's traditionally been an understanding between landlords and tenants. We can't define every bit of common area, limited common area that can be done, and we don't define how much snow means the snowplow guy's got to send his snowplow guy out or anything like that. I think it's rife with disagreement, so I'll be opposing it.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the ought to pass motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay.
Would you do consent?
I don't care about consent.
Move
Okay. Second consent. All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it is on consent. Anyone, Senator Fenton will take this one out. Thank you, sir. 1207, brought at the request of the banking department, and this comes with amendment 1287S, also at the request of banking, and modifies the original bill to include all state chartered institutions that are regulated by the banking department. So,
Move on to pass.
we have a motion about to pass.
I'll second.
And we have a second from Senator Rishardi. And I'll move the amendment 1287S as an ought to pass.
Second.
We have a second from Senator Reardon. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of amendment 1287S, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And to the bill itself, House Bill 1207, we have an ought to pass motion. All in favor of ought to pass, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I will move consent.
Second.
And we have a second. All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. And Aaron, I'll take this one out. 1245, relative to voluntary portable benefits plans for independent contractors. Is anyone excited enough to make a motion?
Excited to make an ITL motion.
Second.
All right. Discussion on this one.
I think we heard from parties that this was created a lot of uncertainty about where somebody's benefits were coming from, how they would get proper notice, who they would go to when they had issues with their benefits or claims.
All right. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to be opposing the ITL motion. I believe it's a simple fix for a real problem. We hear testimony that independent contractors are less likely to have health insurance than traditional employees. This bill takes care of that issue. I think health insurance is important, so I'll be opposing the ITL motion.
All right, Senator Murphy, I understand your point. All right. Any other discussion? All right, we do have an ITL motion before us. We'll take a vote. All in favor of inexpedient to legislate, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay.
I'll move all to pass.
All right, we have a motion about to pass. I'll second that. Sorry, guys. All in favor of the ought to pass motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, there we go. Who would like to take this one out? I'll do it. Okay. On to 1262, and we have an amendment on this one. So 1262 is home heating oil and propane contracts and sales with an amendment, as I understand it, from Senator Reardon. Do we have a motion on 1262?
Ought to pass?
We have a motion about to pass and a second. Senator Reardon, tell us about your amendment.
The amendment is a result of a meeting between the parties of clarifying how things worked on the ground, where the actual issues were coming from, that this gave rise to this legislation of the 59 heating oil contractors. It was likely 4 that were the entire list of 171 complaints over the last 2 years. So this takes some of the burden away from the 55 smaller companies that are doing it right already, and still provides for some certainty to consumers.
Okay, so that's Amendment 1471S.
Correct.
And you're making an ought to pass motion that I will second. All right, any discussion on the senator's amendment? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And to the underlying bill, 1262FN, we have an ought to pass motion before us. Any discussion? All in favor of the ought to pass motion on 1262, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move consent.
Second consent, all in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Senator Reardon, you want to do this one? Moving on to House Bill 1285. 1285 establishes a commission to study what would be a residential PACER program. And the PACER program we did at the commercial level, and it allows for a unique way to fund energy efficiency in certain construction projects. My view of the residential side of this is it probably won't move the needle much, but it might be worth taking a look at it. But I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move interim study.
Second.
Okay, any discussion, my colleagues to my left? Interim study is the motion before us. No discussion?
No. I think the idea may have some merit, Mr. Chairman. I would support it to pass. I'm a little afraid of being appointed to that commission.
Likewise.
So, I would support not to pass motion, but I'm not
You know,
committed to it.
I like the concept. I really do. But when you're building a large apartment building or something along those lines, it's a much bigger number, the energy efficiency on a home. You know, I built a home in Bradford and we did solar, couple other things, but in the scope of the total project, it's really negligible. And there was, yeah, I don't know.
So I agree that it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And CPACER was a great idea. The BFA had committed to doing the paperwork, the financing paperwork for that. The BFA has not committed to do
Right.
that for our PACER. And I'm not sure how complicated that is or who's going to maintain that over the life of the loan, as this is sold with the obligation to repay is sold with the property.
Right.
And I think it puts a burden on municipalities that they're not anticipating. There's no professionals who are out there doing this. And I think interim study gives us the ability to look at states who have done this successfully. There's a couple, how they did it, but I don't think this is complete.
That's an excellent point. I mean, I could imagine a development of 50 homes and each one doing this. And the municipality has to keep track of all of that and manage it, which could be onerous, particularly in larger communities where you might have hundreds of these projects in a given year.
Correct.
That actually makes a lot of sense. So, all right, further discussion. All right, we have an interim study motion before us on House Bill 1285. All in favor of interim study, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right.
Consent.
Second on consent. All in favor of consent, please say
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, very good. Senator Reardon,
Sure.
you did a nice job explaining that.
Study the study.
Pardon?
We're going to study the study.
Yes, study the study.
Yeah.
All right. House Bill 1295, eligibility requirements for charitable and nonprofit housing. I'm going to make the inexpedient to legislate motion.
I second.
And we have vociferous second.
Okay.
All right. Any discussion on this one? All in favor of the ITL motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Move consent.
Second.
Motion for consent with a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is on consent. Senator Rishardi, you want this one?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a doozy.
All right. We have House Bill 1336 FN relative to regulated conditional deposits. An amendment from me. Let me pull myself together here. I've got Murphy amendments everywhere.
Sorry.
I'm looking for mine on this one. It must be in the book. 1285. 1336, rather. Yeah, the amendment on this one simply sets up a system where if the municipality comes up with a conditional deposit, at the time that deposit is returned, it goes back to the municipality. So that's what Amendment 1594 does. Do we have a motion on 1336?
About to pass.
We have a motion about to pass. I will second that. Discussion. All right,
Go ahead.
all right, let's do the amendment real quick, if we could. 1594S, I'll bring that forward with an ought to pass motion.
Second.
We have a second. Senator Murphy, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Now to the bill. 1336, ought to pass motion with the amendment is before us. Senator Fenton, would you like to speak?
I'll kick it off. At a time when housing is so critical and the need for it is so inaccessible, I think this bill will do more damage than good. Asking people for money up front. I'm not sure where the household gross income comes from for the federal property guidelines or the benchmark for a family in this bill. I think, we should be making it easier to get into these homes, not harder.
Okay. Senator Murphy.
I respect the opinion of my friend from Keene. I believe the bill is intended and will serve to provide a way for people who would otherwise be turned down rental opportunities, allow them a chance to assuage the concerns of the landlord in taking one more risk, and this will actually expand housing opportunities. So I'm supportive of the bill.
So yes, Senator Reardon.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments of my colleague, but I will say that this is the riskiest population that we're talking about doing this second security deposit for. That's what it is. It gives the landlords some faith that they'll recoup some money if it takes them a couple of months to do an eviction. That money is probably coming from municipalities. So the end result is municipalities will have half as much money to put towards the probability of getting somebody in a house. And that could be the first security deposit
Okay.
that they need, not the second. So I'm not sure it's a wise move in a time when you have a lot of choices for the tenants that you're putting in your house, that somebody actually is going to pick the riskier tenant and get
Right.
2 months worth of a security deposit. I'm not sure it's going to move the needle there. What I
see.
am sure of is cities and towns are going to have half as much in their human services fund to give out to other people who need housing, which may be the first security deposit, if that's all that's required.
And I'll follow up on that. I am a landlord as well. I own properties. This bill, I don't need help getting tenants. I can do that already. And I just see this, like my colleague said, is, going after the neediest group there is and targeting them.
Okay. Further discussion. Senator Murphy.
I just want to reiterate that we heard testimony from both the New Hampshire Property Owners, Rental Property Owners Association, the Apartment Association, the Landlord Association, and I believe from the testimony we heard was that this was a carefully created and crafted compromise between those organizations and legal aid. So legal aid did not show up and testify against it.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. Any other discussion? So we do have an ought to pass motion before us. So as amended, correct. No further discussion? All in favor of the ought to pass motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. All right, thank you. Senator Murphy, you want to do this one? Or do you want me to take it?
Yes, I'll take it. I made the motion. so.
Okay. All right. 1406, health carrier record keeping requirements and utilization review, including specifications regarding the use of AI.
I have a motion of inexpedient to legislate.
We have a motion of ITL,
I'd like to
Senator
speak to
Bishardi. I will second that. Yes, Senator, please.
So House Bill 1406 is too broad, and it conflicts with definitions in existing law, and it would impose expanded liability on health carriers for all actions of a software vendor rather than just the ultimate coverage decision. And so for these reasons, I recommend the inexpedient to legislate.
Okay. Further discussion? Senators?
I'm gonna be a no on the ITL.
Okay.
I think this bill has merit, and when I was asking some questions, just to clarify if AI is being used to deny or inform claims, I couldn't get a solid answer, and that scares me. And I think this bill kind of will clear that up and make sure that everyone is treating equally and there's a human touch actually looking at these claims.
Okay. Senators? You take a look here.
There were emails this morning, if you saw.
There.
Okay. Yeah,
I did not.
it's here if you want to see it.
Mr. Chair, are you in doubt?
I'm not in doubt. I just want to be sure I've got everything right here. Yes, it is an ITL motion. All right. Further discussion? Seeing none, we have an ITL motion before us. All in favor of ITL, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Move consent.
All right, we have a motion for consent, and I'll second that. All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Anybody excited to bring this one out, should the need arise?
I'll do it.
Thank you, Senator. 1502. Governing special bank and credit union deposits.
Move on to pass.
Second.
We have a motion about to pass into second discussion. Seeing none, all in favor of the ought to pass motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll move consent. And all in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. Anybody want this one? Senator Reardon, you got it. All right, I'll take a little breather here so Mr. Jones can keep up with us and Ms. Moran. Okay, all right. 1523, relative to disclosure requirements for condominium associations. I'll start us off with an ought to pass motion.
Second.
We have a second from Senator Reardon, who also has Amendment 1663.
I do, and the amendment on the top of page 2 changes the 5 days notice to 15 days to conform with the condominium.
Okay, so it brings it in alignment with other statute.
Correct.
Correct, okay. All right, so we have an amendment, 1663, that Senator Reardon has moved, that I will second. I don't think we need to discuss this one. All in favor of Amendment 1663, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, 1523, we have an ought to pass as amended motion. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll move consent.
Second.
Second from Senator Reardon. All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Anybody want this one?
Sure.
Senator Reardon again. These get pulled off. You're going to be busy. I don't think so.
I'm only pulling Murphy's one.
All right. So this one should be fun. House Bill 1540, municipal health ordinances and accessory dwelling units. We have two amendments here. So I understand that they're very similar. if not identical.
I'm not bringing it.
Right, okay. So I'll make an on to pass motion on 1540.
Second?
We have a second from Senator Murphy. Senator Reardon, tell us about your amendment.
So I brought Amendment 1609S as a favor for the House sponsor of this because they realized they needed some corrections in it.
Okay.
I am not actually in support of the bill, but did that as a favor for the House member.
Okay.
So you're moving the amendment?
She moved the amendment.
I'll second
And we
it.
have a second from Senator Fenton. All right, any further discussion on Amendment 1609S?
Mr.
Senator
Chairman?
Murphy?
The amendment, in my opinion, turns the bill into something that is really dangerous to the ADU law that we passed last year. It waters down the ADU law and gives waterfront communities a way simply to opt out of compliance. And while I certainly care about the health of our waterways, I believe that there are other things that pose much greater dangers to lakes and their health than the occasional ADU. So to me, the squeeze isn't worth the juice, or the juice isn't worth the squeeze, as
Either
the
way,
saying goes.
yes, yes.
So I can't support the amendment.
Okay, Senator Richardson, you
No.
want to say anything? Senator Murphy?
I'll agree with Senator Murphy. It sets up a whole nother step for a developer requiring a conditional use permit, which would allow any town to just say no to an ADU here. And there are adequate regulations already at DES that prevents what this amendment's trying to do.
Okay, all right. So the amendment was moved and second. Yeah, all in favor of Amendment 1609, please say aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right. Back up to 1540. We have an ought to pass motion on House Bill 1540. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, move consent.
Second?
We have a second. All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Anyone want to bring this one out?
I'll do it.
Okay, Senator Richardi. Thank you. 1554, requiring insurance carriers to provide peer-to-peer review at any stage of prior authorization and mandating disclosure of reviewer credentials.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'd like to make a motion of inexpedient to legislate and speak to my motion.
all right. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
We have a second from Senator Reardon, please.
So if you recall, we passed Senate Bill 561, which was all the stakeholders coming together, the department, the commissioner, DJ Board of Insurance, the insurance carriers, the hospital association, and the medical people. And we worked for months to address this problem for peer-to-peer review and prior authorization. And it was successful, and it is now being implemented. And this bill will undermine the work that was already done and slow down the process for the granite staters. So for these reasons, I recommend an expedient to legislate.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the ITL motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Do we have a motion for consent?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor of consent, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Who wants to bring this down?
Can we,
Yes, Senator Murphy?
no, I would not like to bring this up.
I'll do it.
All right, Senator Richardi, you got it. I was about to step up, but that's fine.
No worries.
Okay,
Got your back.
thank you.
I was going to ask if we can skip 1588, Mr. Chairman.
So we're gonna hold 1588 for just a minute.
Yeah.
We also held, which one was it?
1010.
1010.
We can do 1010 if you like.
Yes. All right, you want to go, well, let's just continue here and then we'll circle
Okay.
back. All right, let's see, 1630 is the next one before us, prohibiting the sale of nitrous oxide and certain inhalants for recreational purposes.
Make the motion of ought to pass.
Second. We have a motion about to pass with second discussion. Senator Murphy.
I'm going to be respectfully voting no on the ITL motion. The reason being that while I'm sure that nitrous oxide is very dangerous and unhealthy, the bill as drafted only applies to liquor licensees. anyone else who isn't a liquor licensee under the law can sell nitrous oxide, and it wouldn't be a crime. If we want to fix this, if we think it's a real public health issue, it should be against the law to sell nitrous oxide and other inhalants, period. The police should be enforcing it. It should not be something enforced by the Liquor Commission against only those who hold liquor licenses. That just makes no sense to me. I think it's a badly drafted bill, and I'm voting no.
All right, thank you, Senator. I tend to agree with that sentiment. Other discussion? All right, we do have an ITL motion before us. Or not to pass, I'm sorry. Thank you, my sick head. We have an ought to pass motion before us. All in favor of the ought to pass motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. Senator Murphy, I think you'd be ideal for this. If you would take
Well, he can't take it out.
Oh, you can't take it out, that's right. You'll come up and
I'll take it out.
I'm feeling, yes, thank you. I'll get there. I need more coffee.
Me too.
Or less coffee perhaps. All right, Senator Fenton, you have 16:30. And we'll look forward to the floor discussion.
That'll be a lot of fun.
It'll be quick, but I think it's a point. All right, 1681. I think we're ready on that one. Do we have a motion on 1681? Which,
I'll move all to pass.
okay, we have an ought to pass motion from Senator Murphy. This
Second for an amendment.
And I'll second that. And this has, this is relative to the definition, inspection, and local approval of tiny houses and yurts as innovative housing structures. Senator Murphy.
I would move amendment 1697S.
Okay.
Hold on. What is it?
1697S. Senator Murphy's amendment. $16.96, $16.94, $16.97. Okay, Senator Murphy, tell us a story about this.
Well, so my initial impression on the hearing was that the bill needed some, quite a bit of work, mostly dealing with taxation and how it's being handled by municipalities. At a meeting with BIA, we talked about some different language, and by deleting about 7 lines of the bill, we were able basically to throw it back to the municipalities and allow them greater flexibility in how they handle taxation. I believe this amendment addressed the taxation issue. There was one other small change dealing with the building code. And that is referenced, you note that the building code is no longer mentioned. On line 23, there was a C there that is now gone. And then we've added it's a drafting error on line 28.
Okay.
The review board shall amend the state building code to reflect the applicable provisions of sections 1 through 5.
Okay.
I believe in tiny homes as an option for people. I think that it allows greater innovation in solving the current housing problem that we're facing. And so I'm very supportive of the bill.
Okay. Other discussion, Senator Reardon,
No, I didn't hear the last thing
Oh,
Senator Murphy
yes.
said.
the last
Can you repeat?
portion.
What was the last thing you said?
The last thing I said was that I believe that I'm very supportive of the bill because I believe that tiny homes and other innovative structures are an important way to bring down the cost of building and go a long way towards addressing the current housing problems.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Senator Fenton.
Well, I appreciate Senator Murphy's comments and the work on this bill. I think tiny homes are great. We need them. I know there's some concern over yurts, which I hope we address. But I am just a little worried about the provisions that clarify how tiny homes should be taxed. And it's unclear when they become a fixed real estate. So without clarity, I think there could lead to some lawsuits in this. That's my concern.
Okay. Senator Richard, please.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very supportive of tiny homes. As I mentioned last week, I did a bill a couple of years ago on tiny homes. But I feel that while Senator Murphy's attempts to fix many of the things that were wrong in this bill, I still don't think we're there. I will support the amendment, but not the underlying bill.
Okay. All right. Further discussion. All right, we have a motion. We need a second on the amendment. I'll second that. So we have a motion on the amendment to pass with second. 1697 is the amendment number. All in favor of amendment 1697, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good. Now to the bill itself, House Bill 1681. I believe we have an ought to pass motion before us. And with a second. Is there further discussion? All right, I think we've said it all. All right, all in favor of the ought to pass motion on House Bill 1681, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No?
All right. Would you object to consent?
No.
Okay.
With consent.
I'll second that. All in favor of consent, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Anyone want to take this out?
Sounds good.
All right, Senator Murphy, you got it. All right, thank you. All right. Last one on this list is House Bill 1765, enabling wine and beverage manufacturers to offer tastings and sell products of certain New Hampshire wine and beverage manufacturers, essentially allowing folks that do tastings to provide tastings of other products also made in the state. Now, there is an amendment to this. Aaron, where is that amendment? There it is. All right. So, gentlemen, could I invite you up? Mr. Schmidt? So, yes, and the other fellow. You know it? Yeah, okay. All right. This amendment has to deal with stickers that are placed on beer and other products in convenience stores. And in the view of the Senator who brought the amendment forward, it's kind of vandalism because it makes the product unsellable. And I just don't think that's something that we should be allowing to happen under any circumstance. I wonder if you two gentlemen can talk about it a little bit.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Warning.
My name is Jim Boulay. I represent the New Hampshire Wholesale Beverage Distributors. And I'm here with,
Adam Schmidt. I'm here this morning on behalf of Molson Coors.
so we appreciate you very much considering this amendment. We did bring props if you wanted to actually check out the stickers and all, you can check those out. But the amendment is very straightforward. What you have is a situation where my manufacturer sends it to me, the wholesaler. I send it to the retailer, the grocer, who's in the, Kyle is with us in the back and also supports it. So you have all three tiers who are supportive of this amendment. What happens is people go into the store, they put stickers over the product. Oftentimes it's over the label, it is over the the scanner code for the actual packaging. The wholesaler actually goes in, they're the steward of the product on this off premises. When they see the vandalism that's been done, they have to repackage the product or they have to take it back, which is a real inconvenience you can imagine. You all benefit, we all benefit from the beer tax that's collected for the state. But you have weekends like, 4th of July, Labor Day, Memorial Day, and you're out there trying to service as many clients as you can, and you're running into situations where you're having to repackage things right there in the store. So this basically clarifies and says the grocer can put those things that are necessary for labeling, but you can't go in and act and vandalize the product.
What do these labels typically say?
Thank you for asking. I have that. So typically it says, we know alcohol causes cancer. According to the U.S. 2025 Surgeon General, alcohol increases 7 types of cancer, including throat, liver, breast, etc. That is brought to you by a local youth group.
How large are these stickers?
I just pass out the.
Okay,
You
yeah,
okay?
yeah, send it around, we'll take a look.
We're almost there.
I know, I just need to. I can't. It's that time of semester, UNH, there's no rest for the wicked.
Oh,
Those aren't small.
That's okay.
I should also clarify while you look at those, that the industry has actually met with many of these organizations where we've asked and said, look, you can put stickers wherever you want, just please don't put it on the product.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. All right, any questions? Thank you both. Appreciate it very much. All right, so that is Amendment 1695S. And I believe, do we have motion on the bill yet?
You want to pass?
Okay, we have motion on to pass. I'll second that on 1765. And I'll move the amendment 1695. We have a second from Senator Fenton. All in favor of the amendment 1695, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And to the bill itself, 1765. All in favor of House Bill 1765, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move consent.
I'll second consent. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll take this one out. Should the need arise. All right, let's go back. You want to do 1010, Senator Murphy?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I don't think we have a motion on that. I'll make an ought to pass motion.
Second,
Okay.
not further move amendment 1694S.
1694X. Please tell us about your amendment. sir.
This amendment is largely the same bill, except it takes away the water study that was referenced in the initial bill as amended from the House. We had some correspondence with DES. The information I got from DES essentially said that water studies are generally useless. They're expensive. They are often serve as an impediment to development. They are a snapshot in time, and it can be out of date very quickly, and it's just a giant waste of money for the most part. But the amendment that's before you does allow the planning board to deny an application if the board determines that the applicant is unable to secure a source of water. So the water issue is still taken care of here, much as it currently is.
Okay. All right.
Wait.
Senator Reed?
If I might, I want to just clarify too, it was a water supply study. It wasn't
Yes.
quality of water. It
Right.
was.
Okay.
Senator.
Okay. Any further discussion on Amendment 1694S? Hearing none, all in favor of the, yes,
Second.
there we go.
We would have to pass under one motion?
Well,
We did, okay. So
yes. Okay. All right. All in favor of Amendment 1694S, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. And the bill itself, 1010. We have an ought to pass motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I'll move consent. Second from Senator Fenton. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving on. Yeah, who wants to take this now? Senator Murphy. 1588 is our final bill. Do we have a motion on House Bill 1588, establishing special assessment districts and expanding the housing infrastructure grant program?
I'll move up to pass.
We have a motion about to pass. Do we have a second? I'll second. All right. Senator Murphy, you have an amendment, I understand?
I will further propose amendment 1701. Yes.
1701. Okay, do you want to speak to your amendment?
Sure. Can I have a second for the amendment?
Yes, by all means.
1701. So last year, the legislature did some really impressive things when it comes to expanding housing opportunity. And unfortunately, some communities have taken the opportunity in the last year to try to find ways to work around rather than work with those goals. One community in particular began requiring that the parking space that we allow them to mandate be garaged. The requirement that we passed last year that communities allow multifamily housing in commercial zones, several communities found ways to work around that, such as putting in place completely unworkable mandates. Must have at least 5 units, can't have more than 12 units, minimum size of the units. That essentially made it so that those housing projects never penciled out. It made them impossible to build.
Okay.
And this legislature worked too hard to allow communities to go against the will of the legislature and make new housing not just unlikely, but impossible. This remains the number one issue for our constituents. So this amendment is intending to address those concerns and essentially again, reiterate to communities that they must cooperate and abide by laws this legislature passed last year. So I ask the body, the committee, to support this amendment.
So you move the amendment. I will second the amendment 1701S. Discussion on the amendment, Senator Rishardi.
I have some notes here. The new amendment expands the mixed-use mandate requiring multifamily residential development in commercial zones. And the law hasn't even taken effect yet. It'll take effect in July. So we really don't know have any idea what the current law's impact. And expanding it before the law even takes effect seems a bit unreasonable.
May I speak about it?
Senator Brooks.
Thank you. The important part about the bill here, beyond the garage language, is line 18. Shall not impose additional requirements for multifamily housing proposed to be located within commercial districts in existence as of July 1, 2026, or expanded or created after that date. Beyond those specifically allowed under this section, except for frontage setbacks and height requirements. So essentially, it says that if you did allow it prior to July 1 of 26, which is when the law takes effect, then you must allow it after that.
Okay.
You can't create ways or engineer ways around the will of the legislature. I think it's a great amendment.
Thank you, Senator. Further discussion?
Oh, I'd second Mike. I appreciate the work on the amendment and on the bill. I'm in favor of the underlying bill. I'm just looking through the amendment. I do think it does, kind of echoing my colleague, put the cart before the horse on a lot of this. So I'm a no on the amendment, yes on the bill.
Okay. Senator Reardon, any thoughts on this one?
I agree that it is unfortunate that some municipalities sought to undermine the work that we have done and make this.
Further discussion on the amendment 1701S? Seeing none, we have an ought to pass motion on 1701 before us. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No,
All right, I think I have 3-2 on that. So that's passed. And to the bill itself, 1588 FN, we have an ought to pass motion before us. Is there any further discussion on the underlying bill? Hearing none, all in favor of the ought to pass motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
no,
All right, would you oppose consent?
yes.
Okay. All right, motion passes. Senator Murphy, you want to take this out?
Suspect so.
Okay, very good. All right. I think that covers everything unless I missed anything, Aaron. I think we're good.
We did it.
Yeah.
Move to come out of executive session.
Second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Great. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, with a second. Before we do that, though, I just want to thank the committee for your good work this year. It's been really fun, honestly. I think we've done some really good things. We've had good discussion. We've made bills better, and thank you for that. All right,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been fun.
all in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. That was from the heart. Yes, I know. All right.